Good evening, everybody. It is 6:30. It is October 24th, 2023, and at this time, I would like to call our City Council meeting to order. We will start with Pledge of Allegiance, and invocation will be given by Second Ward Council Member Freddie Dancy. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's pray. When evil darkens our world, give us light. When despair numbs our soul, give us hope. When we stumble and fall, lift us up. When doubt assails us, give us faith. When nothing seems sure, give us trust. When ideals fade, give us vision. When we lose our way, be our guide, that we may find serenity in your presence and purpose in doing your will. Amen.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Dancy and Madam Clerk. If you will proceed with a roll call, please.
Mayor Mahoney,
Present.
Vice Mayor Robinson,
Present.
Councilmember Dancy,
Eastside.
Councilmember Gunn,
Present.
Councilmember Schlechte,
Here.
Councilmember Forgrave.
All right, and next on the agenda is looking for a motion and support to adopt the agenda.
I'll make a motion to adopt it with an addition of 10.4 DDA facade program and 10.5 graffiti.
10.5.
Graffiti.
Give me just a second. .4 DDA and 10.5 graffiti. And it has been properly moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed the same. All right. Sorry about the shortcut, Madam Clerk. Item passes unanimously. We have an agenda that brings us down to presentations and proclamations. We have none. Brings us down to item 6, public hearings. Item 6.1, meterless parking hearing of necessity. Looking for a motion and support to open this public hearing.
So moved. Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote to open the public hearing. Okay, motion passes, and public hearing is now open. So I have no comment cards. Madam Clerk, do you have anything in writing on this public hearing? Okay. Council, do you guys have any comments, questions, concerns on this public hearing? Staff? No?
Nope.
I'll
Okay.
make a motion to close the public hearing.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to close the public hearing. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing or hearing none, clerk will tally and display the vote. Passes unanimously, and now we are looking for a motion and support to approve the resolution determining the necessity of the continuation of meterless parking system and establishing a hearing of confirmation to be held the November 14th, 2023 City Council meeting.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. Okay, passes unanimously. I think. That's the right one I'm looking at. Yep, resolution passes unanimously. Brings us down to item number 7, citizens' comment. I will start, as usual, with reading the rules for speaking before City Council. Number 1, each speaker will state their name and address prior to addressing council. Number 2, each speaker is limited to up to 3 minutes during the citizens' comment portion of the meeting. Council members will not debate or answer questions at this time. Number 3, each speaker should be polite and courteous to the council and members of the public in attendance. While any speaker is free to express his or her opinion on any subject, no speaker may direct personal attacks at any member of the staff or council unrelated to the manner in which they perform their duties, use obscene language while addressing the city council, or engage in disruptive or disorderly behavior during a council meeting. Number 4, should any speaker cause a breach of the peace through their conduct, the mayor may declare the speaker out of order. Number 5, if a speaker is declared out of order by the mayor and refuses to cease and desist from disorderly or disruptive conduct, the mayor may order the person removed from the meeting. Number 6, each speaker may speak once under public comment and may not yield their time to others. Dina Morgan.
Hello, my name is Dina Morgan. I live at 245 East Robinson Street, Jackson, Michigan. I'm here to represent the south side of Jackson, Ward 1. Do I need to start all over?
Reset the clock, please.
Are you going to reset the clock?
Clerk, reset the clock. No, I'm not putting up with this nonsense. This is ridiculous. I'll tell you about the law on this too, okay?
She can have it 2 seconds. I don't really care.
Hello, my name is Dina Morgan. I live at 245 East Robinson Street. I'm here to represent the south side of Jackson, Ward 1. I'm shocked that our council member, Arlene Robinson, has never mentioned anything about the $1.6 million that was received from this on behalf of the poor people in Ward 1 since 1974 up until 2001 or 2021, when Derek Dobies decided not to run for re-election. Do you know anything about that, Arlene Robinson? And if so, can you please address it when you during your closing comments? Yes, $1.6 million for the South Side since 1974. We never received anything. You can ride through our neighborhood and see the conditions of our area. And I'm just shocked that you've never mentioned anything about it, but you want to brag about how long and how many mayors you served with, during your term, 10 years. You never mentioned anything about the single hauler service that Mayor Mahoney is advocating for, and he lied about advocating for a single hauler trash system. And no one, in spite of the pushback from the citizens, the voters who trusted him, he lied. So we're very disappointed in you, Mayor. We expected more from you. You were supposed to have our backs, and you didn't. And I hope that people really pay attention to all of the lies, for the last 2 years. You lied about the single hauler service. You lied about the 100 homes. We know that you have been promoting the homes in Lansing, Michigan. Maybe not you, but the staff. 100 homes, you know, the application was open to the first person who received the first home. She's from Lansing, Michigan. She's not from Jackson. $3.5 million was allocated or given to the Affordable Housing Board. I'm not sure what's going on with that. But, you know, we still have a big crisis and no solution. We don't have any affordable housing right now for the people who are experiencing homelessness. Not because they don't have you know, they just can't afford, you know, they're on a fixed income, they're looking for work, you know, whatever, but, you know, we still have a big crisis. I get the phone calls every day.
Thank you.
And please
Have a good night.
vote for new leadership at Jackson City Hall, please.
Thank you.
All new-
Thank you. John C. King.
John King 203 3rd Street in the city. As I stated in my email to the council members may not campaign during council member comments, such as was done last meeting, with trying to address all the alleged misrepresentations out there on the campaign trail. It is not only not classy, it's illegal. Nothing to talk about there. There was a woman, a mother, who asked a question and sat through the entire meeting. Usually a question like that would get an answer in the council member comments, but last meeting, council members were too concerned with their own self-interest. Speaking of self-interest, our mayor has benefited from his relationship with Derek Dobies, in which all three of his jobs as mayor, with JC, and the Michigan AFL-CIO have come as a result of it. His nonprofits, or nonprofit as he calls it, have seen a boom. He makes frequent use of city properties like the MLK Center and Horace Blackman Park as if he owns them, in which a small fee is paid, but many times that amount is gotten back from city resources. The city needs people in office that want to serve the public, not themselves. Vote for John Wilson. Our woke six-ward council members making some highly exaggerated claims now that the election is close, and he is deceiving people. He mentions leaves weren't being picked up prior to his time on the council, but it was radical environmentalism he pushes that caused the stoppage of the old leaf pickup with a stormwater fee lawsuit. When retired police and firefighters pass away, he dances on their graves shouting, "Hey everyone, I just lowered your taxes." No one should forget he had Keisha Hamilton's back when it came to her vile racist comments. Vote for Steve Ann Sweeney. Connerwood has been heavily involved in the running of the city since 2017, when he and his team sued the city of Jackson and conspired with Consumers Energy to have the nephew of Consumers Deputy General Counsel illegally throw out petitions to prevent an election from being held. Later, consumers rewarded with millions of dollars to their bottom line, which is being paid for by the city's water customers. He did all that snuffing out democracy when he had his wife resign from office. The city council could choose her replacement, not the voters. He recently touted transparency in all caps being important to him. Why do politicians like him feel the need to state they will be transparent and honest? It's appropriate his name starts with Con. Vote for Diane Toman. There have been lots of corruption behind the scenes in the city. The mayor claims he was never for single hauler, but the city newsletter stated different. I had read in previous environmental commission minutes that he spoke to push single hauler, but now I see that a vote changed the minutes to state he was only in attendance. I found out the company hired to do surveys and marketing for the MLK corridor improvement works to help candidates of their political
Thank you, Mr. King.
persuasion.
William Hastings.
William Hastings, 1231 Highland in the city. So I thought the mayor made a pretty good point recently in one of his remarks that when people are unhappy with city council, they tend to come in and focus all their unhappiness on the mayor. And he made the point, well, I have one vote, and the 6 people who sit on side of me, they all have one vote as well. So with that in mind, I think he is correct. It's a good point to make. I think it's time to talk about some of our council members. I'm from 6th Ward, so this one's for you, Will Forgrave. I have some questions for you that have gone unanswered during this election season. 1, since you yourself admit to deceiving a campaign volunteer and trying to steal yard signs, and since other yard signs have been requested and discarded in the 6th, have you instructed your supporters to actively defraud the Ann Sweeney campaign? First question. 2, why have you gone almost 6 months without commenting about the devious conduct of Connor Wood drawing your own colleague, Laura Schlechte, out of her own ward? She sits not 10 feet away from you, and you apparently lack the decency to say one word on her behalf. 3, when a homeless woman stood at this podium in front of all of you and spoke of being neglected, mistreated by community activists you voted to fund, Will, why did you coldly ignore her personal cry for help and deny her basic dignity as a human being? No one ever talked to her. I can't reach her anymore. I don't know where she is. 4, Will, why do you mock people on your Facebook page asking about the possibility of a single hauler trash plan in Jackson when in fact you serve on the City Environmental Commission and you were at the meeting on October 19th, 2022, when a highly detailed 29-page proposal, including single hauler, was discussed with you present. Big, beautiful PowerPoint on there if anyone wants to look at it. Why do you deny and deceive your constituents in such a blatant manner? 5, why do you make preposterous claims that the crime rate in Jackson is a matter of perception and not a harsh reality that every person in every corner of the city must deal with? I don't know if any of you heard what just happened in Waterloo in the last 24 hours in the Waterloo Street area. When 8 shots were fired on July 24th in Ward 6, in your ward, in my ward, at the corner of West and High Street, was that a matter of perception? Was my daughter's panic and fear on hearing those very loud shots nearby simply a matter of perception? And finally, why do you insinuate that your opponent wants to get on city council for financial gain when Steve is a highly successful business consultant with clients like Caterpillar and Toyota who teaches lean business techniques at Purdue? Just a few questions I'm asking, but I don't expect to ever have them answered. Thank you.
Anson Law.
Hi, my name is Anson Law, 714 5th Street. Just to kind of point to what some people are bringing up today, the statements made by our mayor that were blatantly deceptive, and it's unfortunate that these kind of things get said because people don't have the time to follow everything that's happening. So when they can't see your actions, they try to trust your words. And when you say that no one was pushing for single hauler and you didn't advocate for it, I have this right here. This is the city newsletter in which you directly stated, I'm advocating for a single hauler trash system. So to say that no one's pushing for it and that you don't support it is a blatant lie. And I don't want to have to direct attacks like that. I don't want to have to say these things, but people want to be able to trust positions in leadership. We shouldn't. We should watch what you do. But you know that there's only so many people that fit in this room and a lot more people listen to the radio, and you intentionally deceive them for political gain, and that's not okay. I was like, and yeah, when it comes to a lot of the other things like the crime in the city, I have gunshots in my neighborhood. I had a neighbor had their car stolen just the other day. So those things do need to be addressed. But to other city council members, when it comes to single hauler, since apparently people keep pushing for that at the county level, the city level, whatever, and then saying that they don't, when it comes to single hauler, let me see the bids first is not a neutral position. I was like, if a proposition was put in front of you to shut down all of the grocery stores in our city and see if Walmart or Meijer wanted to have the lowest bid on turning them all into those, I would not say, let me see the bids first. I would stand on what's right and with the people and say, that violates basic principles of liberty and economic opportunity in our community. Why would we even entertain the idea of a monopoly? I don't want to see the bids. I want that to go away. I want a nail in the coffin on that. That needs to be done. Nobody should be supporting that. And yeah, when it comes to all these new homes, we're throwing money away left and right when it comes to building homes or, $25,000 down payments for people who aren't even from this city. And yet, when we have someone here who is experiencing issues, why do we even have such ridiculous red tape policies that this council oversees that are pushing our own people into homelessness? Why don't we address problems that we're causing before we start throwing away money at organizations that can't even have proper accounting and then dismissing concerns and skepticism on how that money is spent? That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money from us. We should know where every dollar of that is going. And if you want to back these organizations, that's okay, but you should be just as hungry for accountability as the greatest skeptics. Because if you're not, then yeah, questions are going to come up and we're going to be skeptical. If you want our trust, earn it. Thank you.
Jeannie Brown.
Hi, I'm Jeannie Brown. I'm from Summit Township. It's very concerning to Jackson residents that Mayor Mahoney won't set up a debate with John Wilson. Mahoney still has no reports on his nonprofit gun violence initiative program that was given $1.5 million. Where are the reports? While these kids' mothers cry, mothers have said they don't want to go to social events because they don't know who killed their children and don't want to run into them. The sheriff has said they know the people who did the crime, but their hands are tied. Too many people are dying from drugs and gun violence. We are third in the state for violent crimes. We need new leadership in this community who are going to keep all of us safe. We need answers. We need you to debate John Wilson. We need you, people like Diane Toman, Stephen Sweeney, Peter Vermuth, in these chairs, because we are sick of the yes men. Furthermore, Connor Wood and Will Forgrave, both on the Environmental Commission, the group that came up with single hauler, and Mahoney promoted it in his city. So Will Forgrave says that he didn't even know about single hauler, but he's on the committee. But what is this environmental committee doing for the city? The factory that is still not cleaned up is an EPA cleanup. No mention of how or when these are going to get that cleaned up. No one is talking about it. Not the mayor, Daniel Mahoney, not Will Forgrave, not Connor Wood. These people are useless for the city's citizens of Jackson. Thank you.
Cheryl Vidito.
Hi there. My name is Cheryl Vidito. I'm from Summit Township. And at the last city council meeting, it was brought up that Mr. Forgrave had offered to take 10 of his opponent's signs and place them in his yard and in the yards of his rental properties. I wasn't even planning to speak on this, and I'm only doing so now because the situation was so completely misrepresented by Mr. Forgrave, and I can speak to this because, you see, I was that door-knocking person. The problem is I never walked up to Mr. Forgrave's door at our initial meeting as he insinuated. I met him at the very end of his driveway as I was walking along the road because there was no sidewalk, and Mr. Forgrave was heading to his street-parked car to take his daughter to an appointment. However, at the end of the city council meeting on October 10th, Mr. Forgrave deliberately chose to misrepresent the situation by stating that if the opposition campaign was so disorganized as to knock on an opponent's door that is made of plexiglass and having 100 or more Forgrave signs behind it, then you basically deserve what you get. At the end, he said it was all in fun, but his initial statements were stern and actually dishonest enough to the point where I felt an honest rebuttal was in fact needed. And yes, perhaps it's my bad that I didn't recognize Mr. Forgrave outside of the normal city hall sitting where I typically see him, but I didn't, and he knew, and he took advantage of that by offering to take 10 of his opponent's signs in what appeared to be a very sincere gesture of support. I realize now, of course, that he was not being very honest or ethical in that situation, as he could have easily have said who he was in that moment. In fact, he deliberately chose to misrepresent himself as a supporter of his opponent, to offer to take signs, and then to misrepresent the situation to the people of the city of Jackson at large. And that does not promote sincerity or trust, in my humble opinion. So in ending, and as a side note, I will sometimes leave material at the home where an opponent's sign has been placed, as I don't think it hurts for people to hear from both sides. You know, actually, that's healthy. That's what an election is all about, hearing from all sides. Thank you.
Peter Bormuth.
Peter Bormuth, 142 West Pearl Street. I want to first put out a public service announcement. We've been having some problems in the Mount Evergreen Cemetery. There is someone tipping over the monuments. It appears that this is happening very, very late at night. I hope the police can, make a patrol through there perhaps in those wee hours, like between 11 and 3. They're doing significant damage, and anybody in the neighborhood over there on Greenwood, Morrell, Woodbridge, anyone who has any knowledge of this, I ask that you contact our city or our law enforcement, because it's a real problem. I want to say, Freddie, your invocation is really nice. You talk about faith and hope, and when you've been a council person, that's what you do. You hope and you have faith that things will turn out, but you just basically vote for everything that's put in front of you, unless it's marijuana. And you don't know how it's going to turn out. I would recommend to the east side that you vote for someone who has wisdom. And let me define wisdom for you in case you don't know what it is. It's knowledge of the past, applied to the present, and able to predict the future. And those are qualities that are very valuable in someone who's representing you in local government. So I ask everybody out there in Ward 2, please vote for me for a change. Because Freddie voted for every single demolition. And it was those demolitions of our low-income housing that have essentially caused the current crisis that we're facing with homelessness and with the need for low-income housing. We demolished our low-income housing. Now, yes, it was dilapidated. Some of it needed to be demolished. But Freddie, and he can't plead ignorance, Susan Murdy got up here at least 10 times and told everyone on council what was going to happen if you continued to demolish all those houses. And no one listened to her. And Freddie continued to vote for every demolition. So I'm just asking the people of the east side, vote for someone who can see what is coming when they make choices up here representing you on city council. Finally, I want to say that, unlike some other people in the community, I think that Mayor Mahoney has worked really hard. I think Mayor Mahoney has taken some steps in the right direction. I think Mayor Mahoney has made some mistakes, and the single hauler would be a big one, and I hope he will not fall on that sword.
Nick Klein. Sorry, Nick.
Oh, that's okay. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for having me tonight. Again, my name is Nick Klein. I'm here with Pivotal. We're based at 9100 Center Point Drive, Suite 210 in Westchester, Ohio. I'm here on behalf of Pivotal to respectfully request a pilot reduction on our Blackstone affordable housing development from 6% to 4%. I want to make it very clear that we would not be requesting this reduction if it not were emergency for the development. Our construction costs have gone up 20 to 30%, if not more, which it conflates to about $2 to $3 million. Additionally, in that time frame, we've had interest rates go up 50 to 100%, making the development, the affordable development, which is already thin to begin with, even harder, to make pencil. So we respectfully request and urge you to lower our pilot to 4%. Thank you again.
Okay, thank you all for our citizens' comments. That is going to bring us down to item number 8, petitions, communication from city staff and other governmental entities to be accepted and placed on file. Looking for a motion and support to accept and place on file the item 8.1.
So moved.
Support.
Moved and supported. Just for some point of information, I'm going to hand it over to the city manager.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you recall, probably in August or September, this body identified the east side, especially East Michigan Avenue, as a priority for economic redevelopment. At the time, you asked to have some public meetings and gather some information. So what I provided to you in the council packet was a brief memo depicting what we did, what we found, and what we still need to do. We had 2 meetings, one in the morning and one in the evening. Attendance was really not there. We had 3 people come to both meetings, 3 people total come to both meetings. But that made the conversation go a little deeper. And so we talked about some different ideas, some concerns. But what I spent time in my memo trying to demonstrate and make clear that it provided me with a better roadmap for how to go forward. So we have an intern working with the Downtown Development Authority to gather business information, contact information, to create the community. What's missing over on the east side is some community. We need to build that, and we need to help build that. And so part of that is building relationships. That's the first part of it. And so that's what we're doing. We're gathering information, and we'll take another run at some more public meetings with specific intent with respect to just specific topics that might pique people's interest and get more attendance. So, but that community part, I think needs to happen first, because there's some other ideas and some tools in the economic development toolbox, like a corridor improvement authority, like a neighborhood enterprise zone, like official formal bodies. And I think in order to really have a conversation about what's next or expanding the DDA, we need to build that community and get a sense from the people over there about what is actually desired. So that's the crux of my memo.
I'll wait to make my comment until after this. I got just a comment that I think is really going to lead to a motion, so I'll wait.
Okay.
I think you are, even though I know the DDA boundaries are kind of narrow along there, I think these conversations have to include people beyond those boundaries. And if the city needs to contribute to that cost and reimburse the DDA for that, I think that would be an important process to getting buy-in. I mean, you gotta include Eaton, and you gotta make sure someone from.
That was in the memo, like we have to be a bit more broader about
Right.
our outreach and stuff.
And go up Cooper Street.
That was the memo.
Yeah,
Well, Eden is not part of the DDA.
right. I'm saying they have to broaden that for inclusiveness.
100%.
And I would be 100% in favor of the city reimbursing the DDA for any extra expenses that would incur. Maybe there aren't any, I don't know.
Any other discussion? Okay, clerk will tally and display the vote. Before we move on to the next item, my comment on this, that it'll probably end up leading to a motion later, but I'm curious if it would be more effective if we had like an east side corridor, east side development like work group, not necessarily establishing a corridor improvement authority, but allowing them to work as a work group to bring back a recommendation of what's actually needed, whether it be an enterprise zone or a corridor improvement authority. So,
Yeah, when I said build community, that's kind of what I'm looking for, is looking for some people to come together and start driving what needs to happen next. Because there's a lot of different ways it can go, but it only works if there's buy-in. And so I like what you're saying, because we're saying the same thing, just different ways.
I would make a motion to create a task force for economic development and improvement on the eastern side of the city, and to add this as a item on our agenda for monthly discussion until we get something figured out.
So move. Second, okay.
So what's the motion? Just to add it as a monthly discussion?
To create a east side task force, like economic development task force, specifically for the east side, in hopes that they would take maybe, 90 days or so to pull a few people together in that committee and to
Can you be a
bring
little
us
more
back
specific
a
as to who's gonna,
recommendation.
like, is Jonathan
So
gonna
I
create the
would
task force?
say one staff, a couple of council people,
Scott
and
Fleming?
3 to 4 public members.
What this does
That will
is,
put us at 7.
yeah, what you're doing is filling out that specific meeting with a specific topic that I mentioned in my memo, so you're helping me out. So I think we put the word out with this. We have an intern in the manager's office who's been working alongside the DDA to collect all the contact information. We put out word that we're going to have a task force come to this meeting if you want to be involved, and we'll get people to round out the task force, and people who want to be a part of it, that 3 to 4 people part. We can figure that out.
Is there a couple of council people from the east side who might be interested?
Yeah, why not?
You're gonna be there anyways.
So I would recommend those two from 2 and 3.
We were there. We were 1 and 3.
And add that into my motion if there's no objection. Okay, seeing or hearing none. Any further discussion on the motion?
No.
Okay. Clerk will tally and display the vote. All right, passes unanimous. And that brings us down to the consent calendar. I'm looking for a motion to support on the consent calendar.
Support.
It's been supported and the support was supported. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. Passes unanimous. Brings us down to other business. Item 10.1, looking for a motion and support to approve the second reading and final adoption of ordinance number 2023-12, and ordinance amending Note 9 of Section 2776.01B1, Article 3, Chapter 27, Part 2 of the Jackson City Code of Ordinances.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. Passes unanimously, brings us down to 10.2. Recommendation from ad hoc committee tasked with appointed official review format.
So I gave you a memo as best as I can with the amount of time I have. Our recommendation from our committee is to have a committee. You could reestablish the Personnel and Policy Committee or create a new one and call it whatever you want to call it. The goal would be to consistently, to have a system in place to consistently review our appointed officials. Starting in January of '24, we would hire an outside contract like we did a couple of years ago to do a process on all appointed officials, and do that every 3 years. And in the 2 years that we're not doing it, the committee would establish a questionnaire and determine who fills those out. So the timeline would be start January, have the questionnaires due back February, summarize them mid-March, meet with the appointed officials in closed sessions, and if that's how they want to meet, to review them. And then there was just a couple of ideas on salary, but that can be up to the committee. The appointed officials' responsibility would do a self-evaluation and narrate accomplishments of their goals, which I believe some of them already do, if not all. And then another idea that came out of that, and we didn't talk in depth about it, was employee exit interviews to be added. And if they aren't done in person, at least send them a questionnaire via mail to be returned to the chair of the committee. And the committee would develop that questionnaire. It could be one question, it could be 10, I don't know, that would be up to them. A little couple of notes on here was the yellow highlighted is just ideas. Well, it's all ideas, but another idea was to take the appointed officials off the step increase. And question I had was where, or who would there be a staff person assigned to the committee? Because I think it's a lot to ask council people, since we do have other worlds, to ask us to do the paperwork part of it, all of this, because it's a lot of work.
I'll do it.
You can't. I was probably thinking of Doria, but your HR person, but I don't know if there's a conflict of interest with her position and yours positions.
I don't know if it would be a conflict of interest, more of a
Confidentiality, I don't know.
probably a little uncomfortable for her to evaluate the person that's her.
Yeah, I'm not talking
Or
about
be
her
in charge of the
evaluating, her being the
process.
staff to the committee.
Okay.
Okay. That would be to you. So Freddie
just
and
a-
Will can chime in, they were there.
Okay, I'll wait for you guys to chime in, then I'll ask my questions.
Okay, as Councilwoman Schlechte mentioned, as one of the three people on the committee, we worked, this is pretty accurate, more or less, the highlighted aspect of this did not come out of that committee, but can be discussed moving forward. I think everything else is something we would like to see that we agreed on. I do see our city attorney has made a number of notes on this. I don't want to say that what we did is going to be perfect, and obviously moving forward, we want to make sure what we're doing is legal. We aren't breaking any contracts with current employees, things of that nature. But ultimately, I think what we wanted to see is some form of this moving forward. Maybe not next year, but when contracts are up, we can discuss what those look like and mold them to form into this, if that makes sense. Is that right?
Mm-hmm, yeah. I mean, I think the evaluation process could, regardless of what the contract's expirations are.
I don't think, are there contract expirations? I don't think we have contract expirations.
He sent those to us, and I apologize, it did not get a chance to review them. So you may, if you reviewed them, you would know that better than I do.
But I don't think that's a contract expiration. Looking at the step increases, I think that's in the contract.
Yeah, it very well could be,
Yeah, that's in the contract.
right. But,
I think some things,
oh, yeah. Yours is not, right, Jonathan?
yeah, I think some things on here, especially the highlighted items, I don't remember. I don't
Yeah, we
think-
didn't talk about that.
Well, we didn't discuss this. I don't know why
I
they.
stole that from Battle Creek.
Yeah, okay. I don't know why that's on here. It's not what we discussed, so I don't know why that's even on here.
That's why I noted that it was just ideas.
Yeah, it sounds like your ideas,
Well,
Your
actually,
personal ideas.
That's what Battle Creek does. So.
your personal ideas. So, I don't, I guess some of it I don't agree with.
Well, I think at this point, we would have to have city attorney chime in, and I don't know if you want it in a resolution, and if you do, he would have to write a resolution.
I've got a couple of questions first. So I think that this sounds like the recommendation is one to start with hiring another outside firm. So my first question would be, when was the last time that we had an outside firm evaluation? It's been 3 years now?
Yeah, 2021,
So,
I think.
21?
That's how we got to the 3-year,
Okay.
to just keep that consistent from 3 years ago.
And then in between the outside firm coming in, would just be a kind of like a questionnaire that's put out by council, and then taken through that process January to February, March, with the results coming back from what that says, right?
We did the time frame the way we did so that if there were raises or bonuses that were given, that they could be included in the budget. And so the city manager could plan accordingly, and they would be effective July 1.
Above
Okay.
and beyond any step increases that are contractually obligated to be included, right?
And that's really basically what the highlights was, more just to establish a July 1 for any increase in salary or change in salary, whatever.
Council, do you guys have any other questions? My other request is if this could be added to the agenda for public consumption after the meeting.
Oh, the memo?
Yep, the
Will do.
memo, just so public can also see it.
Can you email it to me so I can put it in the?
Yes, because it's still on my computer.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Okay. And then I think maybe we should look to, like, move this item to our next meeting, give the city attorney some time to look it over also, and then start the discussion with just some feedback from the city attorney at the next meeting.
Or next step. I mean, like, I don't know if you put this into I don't know how you get this into the system.
We could move to accept and place on file,
Tonight, and then you just
right?
decide, as soon as you have what you guys want to do set up, you just make a
Right.
motion, and it gets done.
Yeah.
Who
I'll
makes
make-
sure it happens every January?
You do. Councilmember.
The committee that
But who puts
this
it on?
So I
recommends
think that
creating.
we should,
Put it on agenda?
I think we should attach it to a position on the council. So like either parliamentarian or vice mayor, be the person responsible, someone with a position. That way we know this will supersede all of our existence here regardless. So
So do
I
they
think it should be
get,
attached to an individual,
yeah,
a
so
position
forgive
on
my
council.
ignorance, but does the vice chair or the mayor or the parliamentarian, I've never been on any of those, do they get a list of things that they have to do every year? Do you get a,
I'm not sure.
do you know what I'm saying? Like, because if, let's say y'all don't get reelected and there's a brand-new council here, who's gonna know? Somebody's gotta have this in their tickler system, somebody who's here on a more permanent basis, like our city attorney or city manager or somebody, I don't.
That's what I would do, exactly what you just described.
Okay, thank you.
I still think it's important for someone on council to have the responsibility of initiating.
Yeah, and that's fine, but
the
I just want
conversation.
Jonathan.
That's mainly my goal. I'm sure that if this is adopted and Jonathan or whoever city manager is doing a stellar job, they're going to make sure that somebody on council knows to initiate this process of making sure that they get an evaluation. But then the question is, okay, who does that responsibility get assigned to on council to initiate that process? And I think it's important for someone to be identified. So
I think
maybe identifying both a staff person and a specific seat on council to initiate that process.
so. This is a little vague and rough around the edges, admittedly, but what I envision, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong here, out of bounds. I think the Personnel and Policy Committee is going to live in perpetuity. It's going to be 3 council members, and that committee could be charged with that.
Okay.
That's
That's
what I
who
was-
used to do it. But I couldn't find in our muni code or our charter, or on our website, anything about the committee, even though I was on it at one time.
Okay. Angelita, you look like you got something on your mind.
No, I'm just trying to figure out something, what do we need to do to make that happen? I mean, is there gonna be a motion to create that committee or to reinstate the committee, or I'm trying to figure out process?
I think the next step should be to have this go across the city attorney's desk
Okay,
and take a look at this and make sure that we are within the law
okay,
and what we're asking for. I think
Got
that's
it.
step one. And at the next meeting, we can have Jonathan's office bring forward recommendations with this in mind.
So in other words, not quite ready to like accept and place this on file, but to recommend that it
Fine-tune
be
it.
sent to city attorney and then come back to council
With
through
recommendations.
city manager's office on the next agenda.
Yeah,
From
I'm saying,
both-
I'm only saying that because I see they already have a lot of margin notes over here over his shoulder, so.
He has doctor's handwriting too, so
Okay.
you can't read it, you just know he's written a lot.
Okay.
so
So
then there's no action on this item today?
so I think we could make a motion to follow that pathway,
Okay,
just to make it official.
okay,
I'll make that motion. I'll consider the motion made to send this for review to make sure everything is legal and in line to the city attorney and have it come back on the next agenda by way of the city manager.
Can
With
I-
recommendations. Okay.
Can I amend that slightly and suggest that we remove the highlighted portion before accepting and placing it on file?
Yes.
I'll make that motion.
I'll support it.
Any discussion? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. Okay. Brings us down to item 10.3, Fifth Ward, oh, sorry. Item passes unanimously. Brings us down to item 10.3, Fifth Ward appointment process.
Give a quick update for you guys to consider what's going on. We've had 5 people express interest to be an application in the position since it was put out there. You've all been forwarded their information. One person has withdrawn from the process. The latest person has not been vetted to make sure they're in compliance with the city charter, as last I knew before 5 o'clock today. So I don't have that information for you, but we have 4 applicants. Every applicant to this point has not been compliant with the charter. And the charter just says you have to be, and Matt going to jump in here at any minute now to says you're in good standing with the city and you're duly appropriate to be elected to that office and appointed
Sorry,
to that office.
did you say is or is not?
Is not.
Okay.
Is not.
Compliant, okay.
Did I miss anything?
No, the basic 3 requirements are you're a resident of the ward, you are not in default to the city as defined under the city charter, and you're a registered elector. So we have an internal vetting process that we go through to make those candidates aware and correct any defaults, and presuming they do so, they'd be eligible for appointment in accordance with the charter provisions.
That's actually a good point you made. Just because they may not be compliant now, they could be. So that's what I know now.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. If somebody owes property tax to the city, and it's due November 20th, they're doing on the payment, are they in compliant or not in compliant?
If the tax is not yet due and fully payable, they'd be in compliance. It's only such time as when the full tax bill is due and they have not made payment that they would be in default.
Okay. It's kind of a weird time of year.
It is.
Fifth Ward people, somebody needs to apply. That too. Hopefully haven't already had done that. Anything else? Any other comments, questions?
Yes, I have something. So I know last time Laura, she excused herself. Can you talk more about that, Mr. Attorney? She doesn't have to do that, does she?
So this is kind of an interesting one, and just referring back to the last meeting, if I recall correctly, Councilwoman Schlechte referenced that she would be eligible and may decide to file an application for that seat. The best analogy I'll give is what we're watching with the United States House of Representatives and a vote for Speaker. Any candidate, including those nominated for Speaker, can vote for themselves. So, for example, Hakeem Jeffries on the Democratic side can vote for himself. Jim Jordan in the last go-round can vote for himself. A sitting council person could also, if they think they're the best person for the position, vote for themselves. So on that basis, I don't think if you're just simply establishing a cutoff date like happened in the last motion, I know out of an abundance of caution, Councilwoman Schlechte, to avoid the appearance of any impropriety. But I don't think there's a legal requirement that you had to recuse yourself if you're just establishing with the rest of council the November 3rd cutoff date for accepting applications. So you were being cautious in doing so, but you weren't legally required to. And going forward, if you're an applicant, you would not have to recuse yourself. You could actually vote on nominations, and if you thought you were the best candidate, if you throw your hat in the ring, you could vote for yourself as well. Just for the public's benefit. That's how it works under Robert's rules and consistent with, our charter.
Thank you. Know that. Very interesting. So if I abstained and chose not to participate in the voting, if I applied and I abstained, didn't participate in the voting, would you need 3 out of 5 or 4 out of 6?
In that instance, you'd need 3 out of 5 if you weren't voting, but in that scenario, there'd be no basis upon which you to lawfully abstain because there is no conflict because you can lawfully vote for yourself. So in that instance, the threshold would be 4 out of 6, and whomever gets appointed would need 4 votes out of the current 6 seats, absent the 1 vacancy, so 4 out of 6 to make the appointment.
Okay, thank you.
So we got a couple weeks, a little less than 2 weeks before the applications close. So if anybody knows anybody who is interested, please implore them to apply right away. Any further discussion on the Fifth Ward appointment process? Okay, seeing or hearing none, that moves us on to 10.4 DDA.
I've heard some rumblings, and I don't know what we can or cannot do as city council, but we do contribute to the budget of the DDA. That a church has applied for a facade loan, and my sources on the DDA have told me that it passed. I don't know the number of people on DDA, but so let's say it was 5-4. And I personally think there should be a separation of church and state, and they do not pay taxes. I don't mind that it be a facade loan, but it should not, in my opinion, should not be a grant because they do not pay taxes. There are 143 parcels that are exempt from that are in the DDA that do not pay taxes. 66 of them are city, county, or state owned. That leaves you 77, that are exempt. So if all 77 of those parcels came to the DDA and said, you gave a grant to this nonprofit, we would like one too, that would bankrupt that DDA. And they're not paying taxes. Now, if they want to fundraise, something like that, and I'm a taxpayer in the DDA. And I think my taxes should go to parking and the infrastructure and not necessarily to a nonprofit that I don't have any control over. You know, that is out of my choice. Taxpayers should have choices.
So is this even an issue that we have any purview over? If it's a
That's what I'm
DDA
asking. I'm making my voice
situation?
loud and clear that I don't think it's an appropriate decision for, I don't know if we can give direction to the DDA. We do give them $40,000 is what we budgeted, we gave them last time.
Given direction to the DDA before.
Huh?
When? Oh. So, yeah, those were different times. So by law, by statute, and it's been a minute since I've been a DDA director, but I can remember a few things from time to time. What this body does, it's effectively a parent-child relationship. There is no downtown development authority without a city of Jackson establishing a downtown development authority. After that, the powers that this body has is to put people onto the board and then approve their budget. Other than that, they are a separate, semi-autonomous board. I don't think that we have any lane. I don't think this is a lane that's their lane, and I don't think we have a way to step in it besides waiting until their budget comes up and denying, just not approving their budget. That's the only game I think that can be played. Other than that, I do know that Matt offered an opinion to the board and said it was legal. And so it just came down to the vote. I was at that meeting at the DDA, just going back in the Wayback Machine and visit the DDA board. And so I observed it, but that's all I got on that. That's a DDA thing.
So, is it a nonprofit? That's what your concern is? Well, we did Family and Child Services. They had 2 facade loans. I heard no complaint. I heard no one raise a voice about that.
I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
loan is different
I'm
from-
sorry. We trying to, but please.
Was it a loan or a grant?
Grant? Both? Because both. It's a grant. So I think that's what they are, they grants and then a grant and a loan. So what we did both. There was no complaint from anyone on DDA on the board or anything. It passed unanimously. But now because another nonprofit, and I know they building they drawing a picture, a map of the city. But because it's a church, but it still is a nonprofit. I know they don't pay taxes. Family and Child Service don't pay taxes. So what's the difference?
Well,
What's the
first of all,
difference?
at one point, one of our former mayors was trying to get the city to buy a building for a nonprofit, and I disagreed with that also.
Okay.
So I just don't think a nonprofit, it should be, I don't mind, I don't have a problem with a loan, but I do have a problem with a grant.
So is that discrimination?
What would be, is the church protected?
I'm sorry. I'm just going to call a
Okay,
point of order
okay.
because the question at hand that we really should be discussing is if we have anything to do with the say over the issue itself. I'm sure we can sit up here and talk opinions of if it should be done, if it shouldn't be done all night. But if we don't have any say over that decision and the city attorney has already given his opinion to the DDA, I don't really think there's much else for us to discuss. If you guys want to discuss your opinions outside of the meeting, then more than welcome to. I just want to try to bring us back to order on the business at hand. Is there any other discussion on the opinion?
Well,
of the
his
city-
opinion,
of the city manager saying that this is not something that we have say over,
well,
and the
his
city
opinion was
attorney?
to the DDA. Can you give an opinion as to whether or not the city council has any
I thought that's what
any
the city
control?
manager
No,
just did.
his opinion was to the DDA whether or not they could do a loan or a grant to a
I know, but I thought
nonprofit.
that's what the city manager just did. If you want to hear, are you saying you want to hear that opinion from the attorney on whether or
No, my
not we have say?
question, no, my question is different. My question is, does the city council have any authority over what the DDA can and cannot do?
Well, that was I thought that was the question that he answered. But if you want to hear
Oh, you
from
answered.
the,
I meant the city attorney.
if you want to hear from the city attorney opposed to the city manager, I'm completely fine with that. I'm just asking for clarification.
Yes, I would like to hear what the city attorney's opinion is. And he may not have an opinion at this moment. It might have to wait until the next meeting. I don't know.
So, a couple things. First, let me clarify the larger question, which is not my opinion, and thankfully, there's case law and litigation that settles these issues. And so, the relevant case is American Atheists versus the City of Detroit Downtown Development Authority. It's a 2009 Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals opinion that dealt with a similar program where churches in the downtown DDA in the city of Detroit applied for grant funding. Challenges were made by the petitioners and the Sixth Circuit, which is one step away from the United States Supreme Court in terms of our federal bench. There's the U.S. District Court, Eastern District of Michigan, the U.S. Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals in Cincinnati, and then any appeal beyond that goes to the United States Supreme Court. So this is binding case law in this circuit, which includes Michigan and other states, that dealt with this issue. The second question relative to the interplay between the DDA and the city, I wholly concur with Manager Green. There is interplay under the DDA Act and the Home Rule City Act for how DDAs function. We certainly have a review and oversight role to play with the DDA, but they are an autonomous body who, if expenditures are given, for example, from city revenue or general fund dollars, the DDA can certainly expend those as they see fit within the purview of their board of directors. Does that answer the question?
So was the, so no, the city council has no authority over it.
The DDA expends the funds autonomously as approved in their budget. The city, because they're a separate legal entity, they have the authority to expend those funds.
Okay.
Certainly, because the question was asked, because we work hand in glove with the Downtown Development Authority, when this question was first posed, I looked into it, and again, the American Atheists versus the Detroit Sixth Circuit opinion is clear binding case law on this issue.
Okay, any further questions on this issue? Okay, brings us down to 10.5, graffiti.
10.5, my concern is the graffiti on city, county, state property within the city limits, obviously. It's all over. And I know personally that you enforce graffiti on private property owners. I would like to see a plan for getting the graffiti off of all the electrical boxes and all these, it's all over the place. Bridges. We need to have a plan in place for getting rid of graffiti. We can't expect our private property owners to be held to a higher standard than ourselves. So, if you could bring us back a plan or tell us it's done, that would be awesome.
Is that a motion?
Yes. Make a motion that the city address the city, county, and state graffiti, property-owned issues. And if places like Consumers Energy's electrical boxes, they are not cleaning them up, then we clean them and bill them, or whatever we do, just like we would a private citizen.
I would support a motion if it was city property, but do we have any say over what state property does?
I imagine we would treat it just like any other private entity. So, and we'll hold ourselves at the same standard.
And don't we have a contract with the state where we mow and do that stuff and we get reimbursed?
City-owned property.
Road stuff, this is way beyond road stuff. Like maintenance, this isn't, we don't,
But they're super easy to work with, I think.
this, yeah, I've never known the state to be anything but.
So is there, there's currently an ordinance about,
Yeah.
is it specific to privately owned property or no?
I don't think so.
So it doesn't sound like anything new needs to be created. If it's just graffiti in general, then that should cover city-owned or any properties in general in the city, right?
Correct.
So can I just ask for clarification what the motion is?
That the city go and clean up the graffiti of city-owned. They can notify county and state and do what they do under the ordinance, which is if they don't clean it up within 30 days, I believe it is, or they ask for some reasonable accommodation, the city goes and does it, and they bill them back. And then it becomes a lien on the property, and then it goes into their taxes if they don't pay. Of course, the county, state don't pay taxes.
Elmer, you got something over there?
I haven't looked at the graffiti ordinance in a little while, but there was a time when we enforced it pretty strictly. And if I remember correctly, it requires written notice to the property owner regardless if it's private or public. And they're given 30 days unless it's some type of obscene type graffiti, then the timeline's shorter. It seems like about half of that time, so like 2 weeks. And they're responsible for getting it removed. And if they fail to, we can go out and remove it ourselves. So I think the ordinance is probably still pretty solid. I'd be willing to take a look at coming up with a plan to try to address it a little bit better and quicker.
I like it.
I like that too. Thank you, Chief. It would probably be a good idea to put a notice out also, especially if we're going to enforce this, because I like the idea of us enforcing what's there. If we put something, maybe ask if Aaron can put something together to put on like our social media or something like that, under that report of concern on the city website, that graffiti could be reported in that place as well. Okay, so there is a motion on the floor.
And is
Can we
that an
just,
amendment?
for the record, I'm like, can we just have the motion restated?
Okay, let's have the motion restated.
Motion for the city to remove the graffiti on city-owned properties and enforce all other public and private-owned parcels. I cleaned it up as we went along.
Appreciate that. Okay, so any other discussion on the motion? Okay, seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. All right, motion passes 5-1. Brings us down to new business. Also, just small request. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think if we're going to add items to the agenda, it probably should fall under new business, not other business, considering that it would be brand new.
Oh, that's my bad.
It's all good. Just, I didn't think about that until like right now as we were moving to new business. 11.1, looking for a motion to support for approval of the software services agreement with OpenGov.Inc. For budgeting and planning, software services, implementation, and training in the amount of $217,164 for a 3-year agreement as outlined in the agreement, with the one-time implementation and first-year prorated subscription cost to be funded using the American Rescue Plan Act revenue replacement funds, and authorize the finance director and city manager to execute the appropriate documents.
So moved.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion on the item? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. All right. Item passes unanimous, brings us down to 11.2. Looking for a motion and support for the sale of city-owned properties located at 514 West Ganson and 518 West Ganson to Fresh Start Real Estate Services.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. Passes 5-1. Brings us down to 11.3. Looking for a motion and support to approve the sale of city-owned properties located at 4th and Sograve to Paragon Building Company LLC for the purpose of building a new single-family home. Authorize the city attorney to create the property transfer agreement and other authorized documents to complete the sale of the property. Authorize the city manager to sign the property transfer and other related documents.
So moved.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion on the item?
Yes, I have a question. So my question is, the builder, the builders? How are we getting those? How are we getting the builders? What are we doing to reach out to the builders? Are we advertising? Are we searching in a certain area? But do we know the builders? But how are we getting the builders?
I think I can answer this without anyone coming up. These are outside of a 100 homes program,
I
so
know.
these are just builders who have heard about what we're doing. They're coming in. They may have heard about it through the RFP process that we put out for the 100 homes, or maybe they heard it from word of mouth, maybe the contractor association. So that's what I know. Other than, because it isn't official part of our program, they're just buying lots
Yeah,
and building
yeah,
for people.
yeah. I know. But just
We can ask them, actually. It might be a good thing to survey them to figure out how they heard about what we're doing here.
yeah, just figure out how we doing it, how we going by getting it. Are we reaching out for different avenues, make sure different groups, minorities, women-owned businesses have an opportunity to look and bid and look at this look at the opportunities that they have in Jackson. Just trying to figure out how we doing this.
I don't know that any of that applies on this. This is just a builder who knows we have vacant lots, they want to buy a lot because they've got a house that they've got sold to somebody already. So we can redouble our efforts on the 100 homes and see what happens there, but I can't really control this part of it.
I think,
But what am I missing?
So no, I'm not talking about the home. I think we already have the contracts for the 100 homes, so there's no other contractors coming in, right, for the 100 homes.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we're talking about 100 homes. I'm talking about we have 700 vacant plots. We're trying to get and help contractors come in and build properties. I'm just saying, what are we doing other than you said a word of mouth or other ways? But how else are we going to reach out to the other contractors?
I guess we'll need to find a way to do that.
Where's Paragon out of? Ann Arbor?
Ann Arbor.
Is that what it says?
Yeah, I thought.
But this, so if someone who qualified in the area medium income that qualifies for one of the 100 homes, but they want to buy this house on Sulgrave, you, the city, not you singularly, are not going to give them the $25,000?
I don't think I'm tracking what you're saying.
So if this lot is not in the 100 homes program, or the sale is not part of the 100 homes program, but I, as a buyer, qualify in the qualify under the AMI percentage, what is it, 60 to 120 now? Is that what it is?
What, after you guys consider it later.
Right, okay, so let's say I'm at 80% area medium income, and I qualify for this house that's being built on Sulgrave, irrelevant of the price of the house. I cannot come to the city and ask for the $25,000 down payment assistance?
No, that's not how it works.
yeah, I'm seeing no.
Yeah,
I'm
it's
seeing,
not- that's-
I'm seeing
It's
head
not how-
shaking no over
It's not how it
here.
works.
Yeah,
This
I don't
is
think
just
so.
handled totally outside of it.
Okay,
So if you want to get all these assistance and enjoy those benefits, come through the program. If you're not going to come through the program, you don't get the benefits of the program. Kind of like a gym. You go to a gym, you get healthier. You don't go?
yeah,
you
but
don't get healthier.
sometimes I can get a temporary pass.
Much different.
Yeah, it's outside of the.
Okay, so I guess in my opinion, if it's not part of the 100 home programs, and would be no different than selling a lot to somebody else.
That's exactly what it is,
Right.
what you did at the last meeting too.
Okay, thank you.
I think along the lines of what Council Member Dancy was inquiring about, it would probably be a good idea for us to remarket the buildable lot program that we had, and put that out and send that out to some different developers in the world to see if we can attract some of those BIPOC minority developers that Councilmember Dancy is referring to. I
Will-
think that would be helpful.
Will do. Is there any specific builder that you're thinking of or a group that you're thinking of to help us out?
No, that's not a group that we have thinking of. I think that's what staff should be doing, trying to find the peoples out there we doing it.
Okay,
So I think that's what staff should be doing.
will do.
I'll probably have some resources that we can send it to.
That would be helpful, because we took like the top 100 builders in the country before, so we just need to do something different.
Have you done a presentation to the Builders Association? Our local Builders Association?
I don't think so.
And have you applied to be a speaker at the National Association of Builders? And presenting your project? Because it's a pretty great project.
We'll do that.
So that's some good marketing right there.
Yeah,
And
we'll
it's
do that.
usually free. You just have to send someone to do it and send a good speaker. But Corey speaks very well.
And a lot.
Any other questions on the motion on the floor? Okay, seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. Vote is already done, it looks like. Passes 5-1. Brings us down to 11.4 now. Okay, 11.4, looking for a motion of support to approve the change order 3 to the HMA pavement patching contract with Bailey Excavating Incorporated in the increased amount of $26,670.32 for the repair of sidewalks surrounding the newly installed streetlights on Wildwood Avenue between Edward Street and Lydia Street, and authorize the city manager and city engineer to execute the appropriate documents.
So moved.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, clerk will tally and display the vote. Okay, passes unanimous, brings us to 11.6. Looking for a motion and support to approve the change order number 4 to the wastewater treatment plant Clean Water State Revolving Fund 2022 improvements contract with Allied Mechanical Services Incorporated in the increased amount of $40,345, and authorize city manager and director of public works to execute the appropriate documents.
Did we miss one? So moved. We missed.
I'm sorry, say it. Oh. I'm sorry. I'm skipping stuff, y'all. We can go back. Okay, so
Okay.
we'll take the vote on this and then go back. Thank you for pointing it out.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and supported. And any discussion? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. Motion passes unanimous. Brings us back up to 11.5 because I skipped it. Looking for a motion of support to approve a resolution to enter into a contract with the Michigan Department of Transportation for traffic signal replacement work on Cooper Street, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to execute the appropriate documents.
So moved.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion on the item? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. Passes unanimous, brings us down to 11.7. Looking for a motion and support to approve the first reading and move to a second reading on ordinance amending the pilot percentage in ordinance number 511, reducing it from 6% to 4%.
Support.
It's been moved and supported.
Is this,
Discussion on the item.
is this still workforce housing?
Yes.
I didn't see it in there anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry. Been going on so long, we probably glossed over that.
So it's workforce housing.
It is, yeah.
Nate, you can come up because it might be a couple other questions. Come on up, brother.
So workforce housing is 80 to 120%
It's
AMI?
I believe we're 30 to 80, with an average of around mid-50s.
I thought 30 to 80 was low income. Workforce housing was up to 120. Like the rentals that we approved were workforce housing, and so there's no assistance going to them. So I guess I need clarification of the percentage then. 'Cause I've understood it was workforce housing, and workforce housing is higher than 30 to 80, I believe.
So I guess by definition, under the low-income housing tax credit program, workforce housing is just general occupancy housing. So technically, anybody who's within the income bandwidths can technically rent there. And so almost all the housing we do is 30 to 80. We don't do any housing above 80%.
Okay, so we've been told all along it was that started out at low income, and then I heard it was switched, then I understood it to be switched to workforce housing.
We
I thought that was the Greenwood project that was workforce housing.
I believe that
This
is
is-
two.
This is
So
the
is
Blackstone
Greenwood
project.
the same
I-
thing?
Both the Greenwood and the Blackstone are low-income housing, workforce housing.
That's the problem. They're interchangeable.
Right.
Okay.
So it's like a synonym. Workforce in our industry just means general occupancy. And like senior, we could do senior housing and it would just be 55 plus, but it would still be the same income bandwidths. So
Okay, but-
workforce and low income, it's kind of a synonym.
Okay. Makes a difference to me because workforce housing is like our firefighters and our nurses and our teachers, and low-income housing is more like, if you're down to 30% AMI, that's more like Jackson Affordable Housing. So what you're saying is that it's gonna be a mixture of all of that.
I believe we do. We have units that are 30 to either 70 or 80%. And for what it's worth, many firefighters, teachers, police officers are up there at the 70 to 80% mark, around there. Meaning.
I'm sorry.
Just
oh,
us.
sorry.
Just us.
Do you have
If she
to
wanna
have a
ask questions
certain
after, that's fine.
percentage? Like a certain percentage is 30%, certain percentage is 50%?
We
certain
do.
percentage
We
is-
have a certain number of units set aside for each AMI band.
But you are not going up to 120. You
We are
stop
not.
at
No,
80.
we've never done that I'm aware of across 120 plus projects anything above 80.
Okay. That wasn't my understanding.
For what it's worth, I don't even believe under the LIHTC program, I don't even believe that you're allowed to go for the most part, above 80%.
Is there a time frame on the project?
For the closing, yeah, it'll be by the end of the year.
Okay.
And so obviously we hit the snafu, with the Jackson Housing Commission, and we understand that, you all on your side have, helped out tremendously, and we certainly appreciate that. And we've been doing everything on our end, and we had to resubmit an RFP, for the project-based vouchers. So we'll hear about that early this week, and then as soon as we hear back, we're closing as soon as possible, but it will be by the end of the year.
When do you imagine groundbreaking for this project will be?
It'll be by the end of the year. Closing and
right.
groundbreaking are the same
Gotcha.
thing.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
We're on the same page now. All
Right.
these synonyms.
Yeah, right.
Any other questions?
No, I just want to make it clear, I'm not opposed to you. I have just always been told it was workforce housing, and workforce housing was 80 to 120%, so I am a hard no on this, so.
I guess again, and obviously I respect your vote and I understand. I guess kind of going back, in our industry, it's either workforce or senior. And so obviously if it's senior, it's age restricted, and then if it's workforce, it's not age restricted.
Right.
So in our industry, workforce just simply means not age restricted.
Right, and that may not be, I'm not saying you misinformed us. I'm saying that I was informed incorrectly, so.
And I guess something else to consider, I guess the term workforce housing, I guess, is kind of the quote-unquote new term, because obviously if you were to call it, say, low-income housing or affordable housing, obviously that, has a certain image to it, and so that is kind of the quote-unquote like new term for non-age restricted affordable housing, is workforce housing.
How many units again?
I believe it's 53.
Okay.
And again, we want to make it very clear that we're only here because, we're under emergency, it's emergency situation basically. And we've had many things happen to the project that are completely out of our control. Obviously, kind of what happened with the Jackson Housing Commission, we were supposed to close the project. We were a week to 2 weeks away from closing, and they sent us an email, saying that they couldn't join the deal. And so obviously, our in-house attorney with you guys and some of our other team members obviously worked around the clock to try to piecemeal things together the best we can. And then on top of that, having construction costs go up $2 to $3 million on an already thin deal. I mean, it's bordering on the edge of infeasible. And I mean, this is a huge investment, give or take around $15 million. 53 affordable rent-restricted units, developing on a currently vacant lot. Obviously, what's going on with interest rates, we were originally projecting loans in give or take about the 5 range, and now we're mid to high 7s. So, I mean, we had a lot of things that were out of our control, really kind of hound the deal into the ground. And so we're really just trying to scrape together that little last sliver of hope for the deal.
Thank you, Daniel.
Absolutely.
My question is, how long is the pilot for? And then it gets brought back up to us after what, 10 years or something?
I just navigated off that part of the agenda. Nick, do you remember offhand, it's a 15-year pilot or a 20-year pilot?
As long as you have a first mortgage, I believe it's either 15 or 17 years.
Okay.
Okay, seeing and hearing no other discussion, the clerk will tally and display the vote. And motion passes 5-1. That brings us down to 11.8. Looking for a motion and support to approve the program guidelines for the expanded housing rehabilitation program and authorize city manager and city attorney to make minor modifications as needed.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported.
Can Corey come up and just give us a quick synopsis? He's been back there dying to talk. I'm sure.
Dying to come up. Thank you. Good evening, Council. I appreciate the chance to talk about this program. Councilwoman Schlechter, would you just like kind of an update then?
Just a quick synopsis. So
Sure.
everybody
Thanks. So this, again, started with the Affordable Housing Board recognizing the need for both new construction and rehabilitation of existing structures under the Guidehouse Housing Survey. This body allocated $500,000 to the rehabilitation of existing structures with the premise that program guidelines would be created at a later date. We had to take some time to get some other projects cleaned up. Finally got back to creating those program guidelines, took them to the Affordable Housing Board for their eyes on 2 separate occasions, making revisions in between. City Attorney Haggerty also took a good look. Guidehouse, our consulting firm, took a look as well. Staff took a look. Revised those guidelines numerous times. They closely model the existing rehabilitation program that we currently offer with CDBG funds, with the exception that this program will welcome in both owner-occupied properties and non-owner-occupied properties, in other words, rentals, up to 3 units. So a bit of a a more inclusive look to make sure that we're recognizing not only do our owner-occupied properties need this assistance, but our rentals need it as well. Otherwise, it very closely mirrors the program that we already offer.
And how did you choose 3 units versus 4? Because 4 is your standard residential. It becomes.
Can I just clarify the question? You said up to 3 units?
Yes,
right?
yes, up to 3 units, correct.
Yeah, a typical residential, 1 to 4 family is considered residential. And then they have 5 or more is then considered more commercial sized property. So I just wondered how you landed on 3 versus 4, which is kind of a typical number.
I am racking my brain to remember that conversation. I know that it did take place inside of the Affordable Housing Development Board. I'm wondering if Councilwoman Gunn can provide some context.
I don't remember how we arrived at 3.
I apologize. I don't either. I know that it was a very productive conversation with good collaboration around that particular body. I'm sorry, I don't remember the details.
I'd like to amend the motion to include up to 4 families, since that's kind of standard in the industry. I mean, you don't see 3-unit income property. It's just 4 is standard.
Is that a friendly amendment?
That's a friendly amendment. Just a friendly amendment.
I don't remember who seconded that. Did you make the motion? I don't remember who made the motion. Madam Clerk. So is that a suitable friendly amendment for you to go from 3 to 4?
Sure. I do have a question. Is we've spent, I say we as in the housing board has spent months and months and months on this, and we're kind of shooting from the hip here and changing an aspect of this. Is this going to? How is this going to affect it in any way, or is it the question for Corey?
Come back up, Corey.
Sorry, I tried to escape. No. Personally, from a practical standpoint, that language change won't be a major modification inside of the document. From a nuts and bolts standpoint, I think it may alter the approvals process, I suppose, but I don't see it as a substantive change just from a staffing standpoint. I don't want to speak for the Affordable Housing Board as far as their particular opinion on the matter. Maybe Councilwoman Gunn would like to chime in on that one.
Yeah, I don't think it's a substantive enough either to make a difference. I think would be
good to know.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate that question.
Does it have any effect with finance-wise, the money that comes with that? So would that make a difference financially?
No, it won't. The cap on all projects will still be $25,000, again, unless this body makes an alternative recommendation. I suppose you could make an argument that a 4-unit structure is larger than a 3-unit structure, and thus the dollars may not be able to be stretched quite as far, depending on what the project is like. Say it's a roof and the structure is larger, the project would thus cost more money. But otherwise, no, I don't believe so.
I just think it's nice to stay consistent with discrimination laws, with everything in the world. It's 1 to 4 family, and then it's 5 units and above.
Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, seeing or hearing none, clerk will tally and display the vote. And the item passes unanimous. Just one follow-up request, if we could make sure that we get something over to the communications department to put out this information, that we are also supporting our non-owner occupied homes in the city of Jackson.
We're very excited to send that out. We're already working on a platform.
Thank you very much. Okay, that brings us down to 11.0. y'all make sure I'm not skipping nothing. 11.9, looking for a motion of support to approve the revised income limits as outlined in the revised program guidelines for the 100 Homes program, and authorize the city manager and city attorney to make minor modifications as needed.
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and supported.
Can Corey come up and give us a brief synopsis?
So waiting all day.
I know. Might as well make his time here useful.
Thank you again, Council, for the chance to speak on this topic. We have presented a few different iterations as this program has grown and morphed slightly, both from a practical standpoint and also recognizing some growing pains. We are, I think, before I get into that, excited to share that the application process did open late last week, and as of today, we have 89 applicants in the queue. It's pretty exciting. Some of those are duplicates, obviously, so that number will be a little bit less. We're processing them staff as fast as we can, so it's pretty exciting to see this come together, and that's thanks to the Affordable Housing Board and your efforts as well. So on this topic in particular, a couple things to highlight. We originally set the income cap at 80% AMI. We recognize that served the community that the Affordable Housing Board was really trying to target. We were excited about that. As the program has grown and been finalized, I don't think it's any secret that the interest rates nationally have skyrocketed, and where they were when we started is not where they are now. The realities are that for a family trying to afford a home of this cost, even with the down payment assistance that's going to come both from the city and from MSHDA, that puts a pretty tight squeeze on those families to make that affordable. And while we want to get people to purchase the homes, and obviously we're there, we would not be doing our job as a staff if we then put people in those homes and they could not afford their monthly payments over the long term. That would be, I think, a huge disappointment for us. So I think we recognize that we needed to maybe make an adjustment based on that. At the same time, the Affordable Housing Board thankfully said, hey, let's take a look at the ordinance that formed the Affordable Housing Board back in 2021. And when we pulled that back open, we noticed that, in fact, the original ordinance said that the cap for funding Affordable Housing Board projects should, in fact, be 120% AMI. So we recognize right there, first, thanks to the Affordable Housing Board for pointing that out, and two, that was a miss by me, particularly. I'll take responsibility for that. We got working in the program and got so focused, and somehow I missed checking probably the most important place to look. So we wanted to go back and align this program with what the original intent of the Affordable Housing Board was. I think the third point to make is that MSHDA, who is kind of the partner in the down payment assistance portion of this program, fine partner, their income levels recently increased to numbers that are right around the 120% mark, and in fact, in some cases, are a little bit higher. So again, moving this up to the 120% AMI range aligns us not only with the Affordable Housing Board ordinance, but also with the MSHDA guidelines.
So just a couple of comments I want to make. I think it's great that you're increasing that. The likelihood of putting people in those homes is exponential. I'm not saying right. Increased a lot. Could you keep statistics as to how many apply and how many actually qualify? Because it's going to be very interesting to see that number. Second of all, I'd like the city attorney to kind of weigh in as to make sure, and I don't need an answer right now, I just want to make sure, based on what you're doing as an employee of the city, it doesn't require a special license, such as a real estate license, because some of the words you've used tonight have triggered that thought in my head. When you say you're putting them in these homes, that may be acting as someone that would require a license. And I think that's important that you understand the difference, especially as an employee. And the last thing is, I was working with one of my clients today on a property trying to get the $10,000 additional federal home loan money, and that's gone at this moment in time. So we should not be advertising that we have that amount, that we should put that it's optional. Because once that money runs out, it takes another year, or it goes into the next fiscal year, whatever their fiscal year is. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do. If it's okay, may I address those questions in order, just so I don't lose my place?
Sure.
Thanks. First, from a statistical standpoint, we are data gatherers, and we know that the programs that we offer are informed by data when we start, and they shall be informed by data through the whole process. And then that data can also inform where we go next. So we have great staff that are keeping Excel spreadsheets with columns and numbers that would make me dizzy. So yeah, we have that data. We will be collating it and organizing it both so that it can inform our process and so that it can inform you and the public as to where we stand. To the real estate license question, that's a great one, and I appreciate you saying it. To be honest, we have had a lot of conversations as a staff to make sure that we understand where that line is, both from like say real estate recommendation and also just financial planning and recommendation, right? So we're excited because American One Federal Credit Union has signed on to provide free homeowner education on top of the classes required to qualify for the DPA, both from us and from MSHDA. So we're going to relay just about all those questions to those people that are trained, that are qualified, that have that backing that we don't. So the line for us has been drawn in the sand pretty clearly with staff, and we're going to draw that with applicants so that we make sure that we are not entering a territory where we should not be. I would never want to do that. And we've got some disclaimers in our documents we're going to make really, really clear. Then we're not going down that road, because I would hate to misinform or overstep in that way. And I think to your third question, the MSHDA $10,000 down payment assistance, that's separate than the federal one that you're speaking about. Now, the federal portion, that's not necessarily included in the program. I know there's been some talk. There's even the Federal Home Land Bank out of Indianapolis that currently offers a program. They were offering up to $15,000 down payment assistance in addition to minority populations. But that money, in fact, has dried up as of last week. So you're correct in that one. So we're watching other funding pots to see what's out there. We had a really productive call with MSHDA just today to talk about some additional programs that they're offering, some lower interest rate options that would be available to the buyers in this program. So we're continuing to try to find additional incentives outside of this or in addition to this or just not the one-size-fits-all model, so to speak.
And my last question, does American One offer mortgages now?
They don't. I think that's the funny thing about American One. They don't offer mortgages, but they offer an amazing round of financial counseling and also home buyer education. They recognize that their clients need that service, rely on that service, and it can be a good benefit to them. So they are going to provide it even though they don't offer mortgages.
Interesting.
Anyone else have any questions? Okay. Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. Item passes unanimously. Brings us down to 11.10, looking for a motion and support to approve the continuation of the current polling places for precincts 3, 4, and 5 in Ward 2 for the 2024 election year.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion on the item? Seeing or hearing none, the clerk will tally and display the vote. And item passes 5-1. Looking for a motion and support on item 11.11 to establish the council chambers inside of City Hall as a location to hold early voting for the city of Jackson during the 2024-2025 election years.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported. Any discussion on the item? Seeing or hearing none, clerk will tally and display the vote. Item passes unanimously. That takes care of all other business. Brings us down to council member comments. Councilmember Forgrave.
Where to start? To answer William Hastings' first question, the answer is no. His other 5 questions, I think were posed in a way that I don't feel comfortable answering. It kind of, Reminds me of like middle school when somebody would be chiding you and be like, hey, does your mom know you're stupid? Because it doesn't matter how you answer it, right? You're stupid, so just grade school nonsense. But no, to his first question, the answer is no. Cheryl, I am sorry. I was just trying to have a little fun, and I'm sorry it hurt your feelings. I think it's important, and I think you're right, that people need to be open and honest about who they are when they come to speak to you, or speak during public comment, for instance, to put things in context and have people understand where you're coming from. I think that's important. In that same vein, you know, I did a little research briefly this week because it's really struck me this election cycle how vitriolic things are getting and how much of a circus it is, even by election standards. You know, not to sit up here and feel sorry for myself, but to be called a misogynist, to suggest that your social media picture is suitable for target practice, to be called craven and stupid. You know, we're all up here doing our best. Like, this is a small town local politics. You know, I guess by definition we're politicians, but we all have full-time jobs. You know, we're doing this out of the goodness of our hearts. We have the city of Jackson in mind at the end of the day. And I really truly believe that. I think we're all doing our best. But I did look into it a little bit because it did strike me as odd how crazy things have gotten. And it took me a couple minutes and a little research. But like I said, it is important that people know where you're coming from. So according to campaign finance disclosures for the first half of 2023, just the first 7 months of this year, just that small window, donations to the Jackson County Republican Party read like a who's who of public comments. We have William Hastings donated $150 just in that 7 months.
This is illegal behavior.
John C. King donated $121. Jeannie Brown donated $134. This is all public information. Incredibly easy to find.
Campaigning right now, Will.
Anson
Hey,
Law,
I'm sorry. I'm
Anson
sorry.
Law
Order.
donated $315.
Will, hang on. Listen. During public comment,
Cheryl Videtto donated $134. Jennifer
Order.
Dinger donated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think that's a coincidence. I think this is organized to make this place a circus and to make people, good community people, community-oriented, not want to be part of this. I've talked to a number of individuals regarding the Fifth Ward vacation that look me in the eye and say, do you think I'm going to sit there every 2 weeks and listen to John C. King spout his absolute BS at me? There's absolutely no way. There's no way. And it's absolutely...
No, he's breaking the law right now. You
It's-
got that? You're the police chief. What
It's-
chief your
hey,
boss?
It's
order,
disgusting.
order.
It's disgusting. So I don't think it's, you know, it's not a coincidence. I think the people of Jackson are smarter
You're a
than that.
liar and you're campaigning
I
right
think they
now.
know where this is coming from, and I think we'll find out in 2
You're
weeks.
breaking the law, Will.
I trust them. I trust that the people of Jackson know better. Thank you.
Ignoring the citizens. Trying to water down what they're trying to.
Political meetings do not invalidate.
You're
Okay,
using your
okay, hey,
office right now to
hey,
campaign
his comments,
against the law.
his comments are done. I'm gonna move to the next person. Nobody does an outburst during your 3 minutes of public comment.
No.
Please stop. Please stop. And I'm not gonna ask you again. Please stop.
Don't think you can break the
I'm
law.
not going to ask
We're
you
gonna call you out if you want to break
again.
the law. Go ahead.
I don't need your permission, but thank you.
Oh, you need the law.
Thank you.
I'll bring it down on you if you insist on keep breaking the law. You've done it plenty of times before, but I'm going to bring the law down on you. And it's not funny.
I, for one, would like to move on. Can I do my comments?
Tread lightly.
So Optimus Park, on a positive note, has a meeting. I thought it was going to be for like the neighborhood, but I've seen it advertised, so I'm going to say something. It's tomorrow, right, at 5:30 on the second floor, just to talk about what's happening there. I don't know if you're taking suggestions or what, but I'm excited about how it's looking, and some of the concerns that the citizens have had, I see, have been addressed. So thank you, and thank you, Kelly. I want to, Jonathan, please correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I'm pretty sure someone came up and said that the lady from Lansing got $25,000 for the house. She did not. She bought a house by a private builder. She didn't have anything to do with the 100 homes. The city didn't give her $25,000. I don't know who she is.
That's okay. Thank you. Thank you.
She bought that. That house was advertised on the MLS. That builder paid a commission. I don't know who sold it. I don't know who bought it. Well, I think they were.
I'm sorry. We're not going
promoting-
to debate
I'm sorry.
back and forth.
But I do
Make your
think the
comments.
city was simply promoting a new build, and that was not one of the 100 homes. So I think it's really cool. About the Paragon buying the lot and building. So I think it's great when these builders build individually, and their clients aren't even getting an incentive to do that. And I'm glad she moved. I'm glad she moved here from Lansing. So welcome. Someone in citizens' comments started talking about the one hauler system. I'd like to think of it as a one garbage system, because I think the conversation about the system needs to be had. It doesn't mean garbage is going to stop. It doesn't mean, but it needs to have the I hope that people have an open mind to have the conversation. It may not happen, but there are people, just as many people on the wanted side as there are on the not wanted side. And I think it's a conversation that should be had, and everybody's concerns should be listened to. I heard someone mention the factory cleanup. I assume they're talking about the one on Cooper and North. That is not the city's property. It is not our responsibility to clean it up. It is contaminated. The story behind it, from what I understand, is that the owner sold it, and 2 weeks before it closed, the deal fell apart, it burned, and so the current owner has an issue to deal with. How they deal with it, I'm sure it will be a long process, just like Missioner Plating, and it will be a problem that the city doesn't want to have on its plate, but it's there. It is not the city's fault that it is there. The MLK Playground, I see, has got a meeting coming up, and I appreciate all the grant money we get, and I would love to see some grant money go towards Lions Park or something like that over on the northwest side of town, if we can. 'Cause I'm sure income-wise, that community there would qualify, just saying. And then last but not least, when we were talking about the Personnel and Policy Committee, I would like thought put into whether or not we should have just a short exit questionnaire put to committees. Because I received an email about a problem with one of the committees that I don't have anything to do with, and so I had to do some research, and that made me start thinking about maybe just knowing how a committee operates by a few questions by someone who's leaving it, whether they're leaving it because they're moving, or whether they're leaving it because they're tired of being on it, or maybe they don't want to be on it anymore for other reasons. It would be good to kind of have some insight. So if you could consider that, that would be food for thought and appreciated. But that's all I've got. Thank you.
Councilmember Angelita.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to echo that it's actually exciting that we see some momentum with other builders coming into the city and buying properties and outside of the 100 homes, however they're getting here, whoever it is that is purchasing, new homes are going up. And I'm excited about all the momentum with some of the other builds and apartment buildings that are in the works that have come before the council in these past few meetings. So, thank you.
Councilmember Dancy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy Halloween.
Oh.
Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no comments tonight. Thank you.
Okay. So I've got a couple of comments. One, thank you everybody for your colorful comments and public comment this evening and during the time where we are trying to take care of the rest of the business as well. The one thing that I would say is that we are trying to keep this an orderly meeting. I have yet to disrespect anybody during their 3 minutes of public comment, yet this is the second meeting in a row where during the one time that we have to like answer, speak to some of the comments, say anything in rebuttal to the comments that get made during the 3-minute citizens comment portion of the meeting, which is what a lot of people request. We've had a ton of grumbling from the back and side of the room, which I think is completely unwarranted and completely disrespectful. If you feel like somebody is saying something, then we have this show every 2 weeks, and you have your 3 minutes in 2 weeks, and there's also before meetings, after meetings, and in between those meetings where I'm sure everyone up here is available to be contacted if you want to speak to them personally. I know my phone number has been given out several times, and it is still available on the city website. It is the same phone number that my mother, my cousin, and my wife, who are sitting in the front row, called me on. It's not a different phone number. You are more than welcome to contact me if you want to speak to me outside of this meeting. But I do not think that it is appropriate, necessary, or warranted to have so much disruption during the time that council is trying to take care of the business of the meeting or during their time to make their comments during council person comment portion of the meeting. Mr. Anson, one, I appreciate your comments. They've been very respectful, very well thought out. You speak very eloquently. I don't know what you do for work, but I would encourage you to, at some point, consider stepping up into public service because I can tell that you have the passion for it. One thing I'm never shy of, Anson, is admitting when I'm wrong, right? So I do owe the public an apology. And I attempted to put out a correction letter when that article was released, but then I decided against it. And what needed to be corrected is I never said that. So maybe some people don't know this, maybe some people do. We have a communications person who, and I'm not even afraid to say it, writes most of, if not all of, that entire thing, including my portion, right? Because just like Will said, we all have full-time jobs. Myself, I have 5 children and a wife outside of my full-time job that I take care of, and sometimes I don't get around to taking care of that. Now, here's where I had fault at, right? Because it gets submitted to me and I approve it. We go over generally what I would like to be put in there, and the communications director puts that into the letter, right? Dina, stick around. You might want to hear this. So she, sorry, I couldn't help it. So in that article, when he got it back to me, he was like, hey, and I'm also kind of late on it. I'll admit that. And he's like, hey, I need to get this in. I looked it over. I glanced it over. I'm like, it looks about like what we talked about. And then I got a call from one of the people who always holds me accountable. Because one thing that I can guarantee you is that my days match my nights. I'm the same person, and I'm going to tell you whether you like it or not if I stand for something or I stand against it. One thing that I have not advocated for is single hauling. I have not. Did I attend the meeting for our environmental commission? Yes, I did. I just happened to show up. They did an entire presentation on how much money we are spending as individuals who live in this community on garbage service and how much we are spending as a city on garbage service. And I said, this information needs to go out to not just myself, not just council, but all of the public. I made the request for that presentation to be brought here, which it was, and it's available. We've not talked about it in this format since then. When that went out and I got notice from Mr. Willis, he said, man, I thought you said you wasn't for a single hauler. I said, you already know I'm not. He said, that's not what this says. But one thing that I don't believe in is throwing people under the bus for a mistake that I had a part in. I wrote an entire rebuttal, and I still have it on my computer. I could pull it up and read it to you right now. And I decided against releasing it because my days match my nights. Anytime anyone has spoke to me about this issue, my response has been exactly the same. Do I think a single hauler system is the answer? I don't know. I don't think it is because I don't want to see the independent haulers put out of business. Again, my days match my nights. I have used a independent small business hauler since I moved back to Jackson in 2008. For those who advocate or say that that's the reason that they're advocating against single hauler, I encourage you, the next time you speak, tell me who you use for your garbage service. Because I can almost guarantee you 90% of those individuals, it's not a small hauler. I've used Mr. Johnson, currently using Scott's. I'll put it out there. You can call them and ask them. Have been, will continue. So the last thing that I want to do is put my trash man out of service. What I do want is better rates and more services. There are a ton of other communities and people who I've talked to in these other communities who are paying less money and receiving more services. What are more services, Mr. Mayor? More services like recycling, more services like large item removal. What would that do for us as a city? That'll help us clean the city up. That'll reduce the amount of traffic on our streets. That'll reduce the amount of illegal dumping around our community. There are people who are advocating against us doing something for trash service that can't even afford a $40 trash service bill because they do not know any different. There are people who have trash stocked up in their homes, in their basement, because they do not have the funds to afford anything any different. There's several landlords who come here, I'm sure they can attest to when they do evictions, how much trash they have left over to clean up and how much that costs them. I don't think that price factor was even factored into the presentation that was given. So again, I'll apologize for that. But when I say I'm not for a single hauler, I stand on that because I have not advocated for that. Did I make a mistake in oversight and look at the letter that is the mayor letter? I absolutely did. But since then, guess what? I committed to, I don't care if nothing goes in there on behalf of the mayor. I'm going to write it myself, period. And I have. The last article that came out, the fall issue, and any subsequent issue, I will write myself because I don't have time to be misquoted, and I don't want to put my fault on anybody else. So I'll own that totally. And I agree, Laura, it is a discussion that we have to have. Regardless of if the outcome is we're not going to do anything at all, it is absolutely a discussion. There should never be. I talked to one citizen. They said I'll get a senior discount. I don't want anything to change because I'm only paying $19 an hour or $19 a month. And then there's some individuals who are paying $35, $40, and $45 for the same service. And I think that's a huge disservice to everybody. So I just wanted to address that, and I appreciate the way you comment. And again, I encourage you to look into doing something because I can hear the passion. And I'm not just saying that. I don't care what side of the aisle you stand on. That doesn't matter to me. I just care if you stand for the right thing, which is what's best for this community. Please tell somebody in the Fifth Ward to apply for this seat. We are missing a body. And it would be great if we had some good applicants, more than just 5, who applied for that seat. I do want to say a special thank you to the Affordable Housing Commission for the work and the innovative ideas that they have been bringing forth to help us close the housing gap that we have here in Jackson. I think they have been doing a tremendous job coming back with ideas that we have all supported. I mean, the 100 homes and now this new program where we are expanding the renovation process. And I think this is just all good stuff for the community. That's going to help us build forward. And just also want to say thank you to the rest of the staff and everybody else for the work that they've put in. I'm hopeful that we can come back together in another 2 weeks with a refreshed and renewed spirit. In the meantime,
And you're going to know who's going to sit in my seat.
well, we're going to know a whole lot in 2 more weeks. I had another comment, and it's slipping my mind, so I guess I'll have to save it till next time. Mr. City Manager.
Well, your mention of 2 weeks is appropriate for all. The only thing I have to say, which is that leaf collection starts in about 2 weeks on November 6th. So if Mother Nature will help us out, drop some leaves, we'll get it done. But it looks like we're going to stay green for a while with these warm temperatures and no rain, no wind. So, but we have 2 rounds. Always want to point out 2 rounds. Just because it starts on November 6th doesn't mean it ends on November 6th. We'll hit all the city twice. And stay tuned on our website. Pay attention to Code Red for when your section of the city, which all that information can be found on our website, so you can get your leaves out in a timely fashion. Thank you.
All right, looking for a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye. Oh, that's exactly what it was. October 30th, 3 o'clock to 5:30 p.m. at the King Center is a business resource fair that the MLK Corridor Authority is putting on. I encourage you guys all to come to that. Hey, I knew I was forgetting. That's exactly what it was.